Welcome to episode 6 of the J&J Podcast. I'm Jameson.
I'm Jamie. Appreciate everybody joining in. We're ready to kick things off. I'm going to pass it over to Zach and let him intro what we're going to be talking about this week. What's on the docket this week, Zach?
Yes, sir. First off, let's get into the college football slate. Go ahead and start us off, Jameson. Lead us into that.
Basically, there's really only one game I want to talk about. I mean, if people have listened to like our previous episodes, they know like we're really big Colorado fans, especially Deion Sanders rooting for that program. And I just have to give a huge shout out to the Colorado Buffaloes and what they were able to do this past week with their 34-23 win over Cincinnati. That was like a very formidable opponent. Both teams were actually 5-2 heading into that game. And Shedeur Sanders played phenomenally. Travis Hunter, 150 plus receiving yards, 2 touchdowns. And what was wild is he actually set a new record. He was the first player ever to be named the Big 12 Offensive and Defensive Player of the Week. Travis Hunter just continues to amaze and just put on incredible football outputs week in and week out. Very impressed by everything that brother's continuing to do. And more so, what I'm really impressed is just with, the fact that Colorado is technically now they're bowl eligible, which coming off of, the season that they had last year, only winning 4 games, for them to already be bowl eligible is just something like, that's no small feat. And they're right now, too, they're currently ranked in the top 25 on the, AP polls. They're ranked number 23 now. So just huge shout out to Deion Sanders, Travis Hunter, Shedeur Sanders, that entire, Colorado Buffaloes team. They're just, continuing to amaze me week in and week out. Just huge shout out to them in that program.
Yeah, that's actually quite impressive. I've noticed that a lot of the hater raid, that chatter is real quiet right now. When it comes to Deion Sanders and that program, I mean, it's only been 2 years. He even talked about the fact that they needed to get better on defense. I saw some plays where I was like, wow, they're really improving. Deion knows how to actually to really get the best out of players. And what I'm starting to see from this team is not just a belief. They've had the swagger, and that's what a lot of people were upset about. They were upset about the fact that Deion basically passed off his swagger to that team, and he made them believe. And I think that now it's not just swagger for the sake of saying, hey, we're here and we're trying to get better. They can actually bring that swagger out because they are beating teams. They are proving that they deserve to be on the big stage. They're ranked now. They're bowl eligible, and it's quite impressive. It'll be interesting to see, with the remaining schedule, how Deion is able to navigate that. The fact that they're already bowl eligible, the fact that they could actually do some special things before the end of the year, and it'll be fun to see if they continue to win these games, how people react, because there's a certain segment that have been, dogging them out, running their mouths, saying that, they haven't done anything yet. Well, what can you say now? They're bowl eligible for a team that he took over that I think won 1 game in the previous year. It's quite an impressive feat. Very quickly shifting over to Travis Hunter. And I think we'll get into this in a second, but yeah, bottom line is I think that Travis Hunter, I've got a list for my Heisman watch, and I think that Travis Hunter is probably at the top of my list. I know Jameson, you got I think a list of 3. Mine is a list of 2.
Yeah,
I'll switch to you and then I'll comment at the very end.
Yeah, so my Heisman watch right now, it's 3 names. I have Travis Hunter number 1, to probably no one's surprise. I have Ashton Jeanty number 2. I mean, he's been phenomenal this entire season, and it's wild because if Travis Hunter wasn't in college football right now, Ashton Jeanty would be the clear-cut favorite to win the Heisman. And then third, I have Cam Ward. I mean, I've been raving about him since, our first episode of the podcast, but that brother's special. What he's been able to do with that Miami program, like I've said this, like for the last month or two, Miami is a very scary team right now, and that's a team like they're undefeated. Cam Ward is just honestly probably the most poised quarterback other than Shedeur Sanders in all of college football right now. Like he doesn't get phased whether they're up 12, down 12. Like he just stays poised the entire game. But what Travis Hunter has been able to do, man, like even whenever he had that minor injury a couple weeks ago, like I thought genuinely, like I remember we even mentioned this on the podcast episode. I genuinely thought that he was gonna, potentially sit out a couple games and just try to rest, but he's already back playing, just putting up Heisman numbers. Like I just said, whenever I was talking about Colorado, like he's the first player in Big 12 history to win Offensive Player and Defensive Player of the Week, like in the same week. Like that's just unheard of. Like you can't even do that on NCAA Road to Glory. They don't even allow that. Like that junk is absolutely insane. Like he's doing stuff you can't even do in video games. Like so, like I said, I mean, like we've both stuck to this sentiment throughout the last basically since the college football season started. But unless Travis Hunter just goes down with the injury where he can't play multiple games, I think the Heisman is his. And if he doesn't win, I would be genuinely shocked. Like we'll continue to monitor that and see what happens, but Travis Hunter, man, he's phenomenal.
So I'll wrap it up very quickly. For me, it's Genty and Travis Hunter.
Yeah,
those are my two. Listen. Cam Moore's doing some special stuff, but what Travis Hunter is doing is unprecedented. People always talk about comparing him to Deion and comparing him to Bo Jackson, but even those cats didn't do what he's doing right now at the college level. They would sometimes, play on the offensive side, or Bo Jackson would sometimes, play a separate sport. I know they actually play two separate sports as well. But what he's doing in literally in the same game, on the offensive side and the defensive side, I've got him in the lead right now. But we'll see. Cam Ward can still impress me, but I think right now it's a two-man race, and I've got Travis Hunter in the lead.
Well, moving on. Look, I was watching this game last night. I was out with some friends, and as soon as that Hail Mary was thrown, I knew that it was going to be talked about on the podcast. So let's shift over into the NFL. Commanders and Bears. Go ahead and get into that, Jameson.
Yeah, man. They're already calling it the Maryland Miracle. Honestly, bro, that was one of the wildest plays I've ever seen. But I know a lot of people are just strictly going to put blame on Tariq Stevenson, which rightfully so. Because you can't be out there driving around and just doing whatever you please, talking to the fans and yelling at the fans and stuff when there's still time on the clock left in a football game. That's unacceptable. He already apologized for it, so I know a lot of people are just going to put all the blame on him, but I'm actually going to take it a step further. I feel like Tariq Stevenson deserves about 50% of the blame, but their head coach, Matt Eberflus, and I actually like him. I think he's a very solid head coach, and what people got to realize is, too, the Bears were 5 seconds away last night from being a 5-2 football team. So, the reason why I bring up Matt Eberflus is because watching that game, all people are going to strictly talk about is that very last play in that game, but what people got to pay attention to is the play before. Literally, first of all, Matt Eberflus, he only rushed 3 on that very last play. But even the play before, they allowed Terry McLaurin to basically catch like a 20-yard out route that even allowed them to be able to set up the Hail Mary, because that Jayden Daniels throw was about 60 to 65 yards. If the Commanders don't get that out route conversion with Terry McLaurin on the play before, that literally makes it about an 85-yard to 90-yard pass, man. So, honestly, I don't even think that Hail Mary is possible if he would have made better coaching adjustments. And what's wild is people didn't pay attention to this either. That same play before, and why I keep bringing up Tariq Stevenson, he was still talking to the fans even on that play before that I just mentioned where Terry McLaurin ended up converting that out route. So that's bad coaching. You still had 3 timeouts. So before that out route even happened with Terry McLaurin, Matt Eberflus could have called a timeout. And then to make matters worse, even right before the Hail Mary play, even after the out route, he failed to call a timeout. You have 3 timeouts left for a reason, my brother. Use them. Like, they always talk about NFL coaches. They always practice the Hail Mary and what you do in those scenarios. But it's like, bruh, if you have timeouts, I don't care how much you practiced it. Wow, it doesn't hurt you to take that extra time out, get everybody huddled up, make sure everybody's on the same page before somebody goes out there and looks dumb like they did yesterday. So basically, because with the combination of Tariq Stevenson just making a boneheaded play like that and just not being completely locked in, combined with pretty pedestrian coaching In my eyes, for Matt Eberflus, I feel like that's what really cost him that game, and that's why the Bears are now 4-3 instead of 5-2. But your thoughts, sir?
Yeah. So I there are a couple of things for me. I'm not a head coach. I've never, except Jameson when you played flag. I think I helped coach your team back then. So I don't pretend to be a head coach, but I really don't understand the concept of never actually blitzing whenever teams are trying to set up a Hail Mary.
Yeah.
When you only send 2 or 3, I just don't understand that concept. I know, that's, kind of what the precedent is. You always, make sure you've got enough players back there. Well, if you're blitzing, the quarterback, you don't give them a chance to get the Hail Mary off. For me, that's a major issue, and I completely agree with you about the pass that allowed them to even set up for the Hail Mary. That was, in my opinion, poor coaching. I have a nickname for Jayden Daniels. It's going to sound corny, but I don't care because in my mind, he's the DC Dazzler. That's what he is.
I like that.
He was a superhero. He would be the DC Dazzler.
I like that.
Because he's doing some special stuff. And Noah Brown even said it whenever he caught the touchdown. He was like, "Man, I'm glad we've got 5." He was like, I wouldn't want to play for another quarterback. A dude has, as a rookie, won, the hearts of the players. They trust him. Yep. He's doing some special stuff. And I mean, I just think that, to your point, what he did was special, but Eberflus also didn't do what he should have done. And I'm not going to that game wasn't lost because of that young man not being where he was supposed to be. Granted, that was part of it, but there was some bad coaching leading up to that. So it was an exciting game to watch. I'm a little bit perturbed with Caleb Williams because I had DJ Moore and I lost by 5 points in my fantasy football league, but this isn't personal. So those are my thoughts as far as that particular game is concerned. Segueing over very quickly, Jameson, to the Cowboys and 49ers. Couldn't happen to a better team. I'm ecstatic that the Cowboys lost yet again. We talked about Jerry Jones losing on his birthday and how they got beat down. I'm not going to say a whole bunch about it. I'm going to get your opinion, and then I'll wrap it up at the end. What are your thoughts?
Well, I've said this for the last 2-3 years. First off, Dakota Rain Prescott, I just don't think he's a good quarterback. I know he's the highest paid quarterback right now in the NFL. And here's what I'm going to say today. Today, I'm not about to put all the blame on Dak Prescott because he's only going to be as good as what was given to him and provided him weapon-wise. But there's no excuse for you now having 3 straight regular season games where you've thrown 2+ interceptions. That's on Dak Prescott. For example, Lamar Jackson doesn't have a CeeDee Lamb, and he's not out here throwing Stevies. So that I cannot excuse Dak Prescott for. But we've said this coming into the season. The Cowboys roster is not good. People want to compare it to, they won, 12 regular season games last year. This is not the same roster. First off, right now, their best defensive ends, Micah Parsons, like Lawrence, some of these other guys are hurt and they're out. And then on top of that, what have we said all year that is the recipe for success no matter what NFL team you are? You have to be able to run the ball and stop the ball, and the Cowboys can do neither. Dad, last night, Brock Purdy had the same amount of rushing yards by himself as the entire Cowboys offense. It was 56. Brock Purdy. I didn't say Deebo Samuel. I said Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy had the same amount of rushing yards as the entire Cowboys offense. So it's like when the 49ers and Nick Bosa already know that you can't establish a run, Dak Prescott doesn't stand a chance. Now, granted, those 2 interceptions that he threw, that's on him. But outside of that, they're able to key in on CeeDee Lamb. I can't even tell you who the other wide receiver is outside of Brandon Cooks for the Dallas Cowboys. And Rico Dowdle, he didn't play. Ezekiel Elliott, he looked like Ezekiel Elliott. I'm telling you, the Cowboys, They are a poverty franchise right now. And what's sad for them is I genuinely feel bad for the fans because it's going, like we said last week, it's only going to get, 2 weeks ago, it's only going to get worse before it gets better because they have the most ignorant owner in all of sports. Because Jerry Jones is going to be stuck in his ways and he wants to win his way. And when he's not winning his way, this is the result. So, like I said, I don't want to sit here and harp on the Cowboys because we can have an hour-long podcast about just the Dallas Cowboys themselves. But honestly, I'm not shocked by what happened last night. Like, I feel like this is going to continue to happen on a week-to-week basis. They don't have a run game, and they can't stop a cold. So, yeah, that's my thoughts on the Cowboys.
Okay. I can't disagree with anything that you said. I mean, that was pretty succinct.
Yeah.
Now, I will shift over very briefly because, as we said in the beginning of starting these podcasts, sometimes we say the things that other people want to say but won't actually say them. And there was some controversy after the game last night. Most people may or may not want to touch on it. After when Brock Purdy was giving his
when Nick Bosa did.
Yeah, Nick Bosa came in with the hat, the Make America Great Again hat. And I just thought it interesting that when it was time for the press conference, he didn't have a hat on. And then when they asked him a question about it, he tried to sidestep it and was all, shy and passive about it. I'm like, say it with your chest, bro. If you're going to be bold enough to jump in the middle of your teammates' press conference, they're interviewing him. You want to try to steal some shine from him after you won the game and you want to steal shine from him, then own it. If you're not going to own it, then be quiet. When Colin Kaepernick knelt down to talk about violence, police violence, and what was going on in the community that he came from, people looked at him sideways. I want to, ask the media, where are you now? Like when he was standing up there, I don't even think there was really a follow-up question when he passively said what he said. So nobody's going to tell us to shut up and dribble. Nobody's going to tell us to be quiet about certain topics because bottom line is there shouldn't be a double standard. If you're going to say it, if you're going to wear the hat, you're going to have an opinion, then own it. Say it with your whole chest, Nick Bosa. Own it.
And
say
even today, like I didn't see any of these like Sports Center shows and ESPN shows and all these covering that. They weren't going to.
No, nobody let off with that.
No.
So I'll wait to see what the NFL does. Will they fine him? Will they say something about it?
Probably
will
not.
They sweep it under the rug? So I had to throw that in there. I'm glad they beat the Cowboys, but I'm simply not going to not address the fact. Forget that there's an elephant in the room. I've got a saddle, and I hopped on that joint, and I'm not afraid to talk about it. So at the end of the day, Nick Bosa, say it with your chest. Don't put the hat on and then you're all passive and soft when it comes time to say something about it. And media, do your job. Hold him to account.
Hey, he didn't want to be like that Texas Tech kicker though, trying to rep that and then missing the field goal and losing the game. So maybe that's what it was.
Yeah, maybe so. So anyway, all right. Next topic. I know we were going to talk about the Jets and the Patriots. I'll let you lead off with this one because boy, there's lots to say about. I'll let you say it. I'm not going to say it. You go ahead.
Well, first off, I'm going to say the Jets have a lot of turbulence right now. It's not, pun intended, it's not looking good right now for the New York Jets. And what's funny is all the blame, like we mentioned 2 weeks ago, it's all on Aaron Rodgers. My brother, there's nobody else you can fire. You're the scapegoat, brother. There's no way out of this one. You're done.
You're done.
You got rid of Robert Saleh. Y'all haven't won a game since. Y'all been terrible. You should have never fired Robert Saleh. Then you demote Nathaniel Hackett from being the offensive coordinator. Your offense gets worse. You trade for Devontae Adams. You get your best friend back. You can't even throw him the football and get him any touchdowns. I'm at the point where I have Garrett Wilson and Devontae Adams on my fantasy team. They both might need to go. And it's not their fault. Aaron Rodgers is not what he used to be. And he deserves all the blame. Even last night, what I didn't like from him was in the press conference, they were asking him, how do you feel about things going forward and all that stuff? And then he was basically like kind of scolding the guy that asked him the interview question. I'm like, nah, bro, you want to be pompous? You want to have the keys to the franchise and stuff like they gave you? Bro, this is on you. There's nobody else you can scapegoat right now. And then on top of that, I also didn't like the comments that Aaron Rodgers made where he basically alluded to the fact that he said, man, we're going to have to put up at least 30 points a game to be able to win. Bro, you're literally publicly criticizing your defense, which has honestly made you look a little bit better than really truly how the offense has been this season, because it's been pretty pedestrian. I don't understand how you have Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson, Mike Williams. You now have Devontae Adams. You have a solid offensive line, and you can't go out there and win games. Dad, literally, the New England Patriots did nothing yesterday. Drake May had a concussion, for crying out loud. They had to bring in Jacoby Brissett, and they still lost. Dad, they said there had never been a time in NFL history where the Jets didn't turn the ball. They didn't have not one interception, not one fumble. That was the first time in NFL history where a team didn't throw an interception, didn't have a fumble, and held a team to under 250 total yards and lost the game. And the Jets found a way to do that yesterday, and it was because of Aaron Rodgers. There's nobody else to blame. Who you gonna fire next? The interim head coach? Like, bruh, like, it's on you. And like I said, I'm gonna be honest. This Aaron Rodgers signing by the Jets could be worse than when they had Mark Sanchez in the butt fumble. It's getting to that point. Like, that, I'm just being honest with you, because what good has come from Aaron Rodgers being a part of the Jets organization? Now, granted, last year he got hurt. That was not his fault. But I feel like ever since Aaron Rodgers has been on the Jets, all it's done is it's overall increased their expectations, and they haven't been able to live up to them. And then every single day is just drama with the Jets, and it all just goes back to Aaron Rodgers, whether it be him not showing up for voluntary what's it called?
Mandatory.
Yeah, my fault. Mandatory workouts over the all season. Him traveling. Him not being on the same page with Robert Saleh. Him now getting Devontae Adams. Him getting Robert Saleh fired. It's like every single week they're in the news for everything except winning football games. And it's not about to get any better, because I feel like, to me, he's already lost the locker room. I feel like a lot of people aren't going to come out and say that, but it's just like, if I'm Garrett Wilson and Devontae Adams, some of these other guys, like, I'm not confident going into games knowing that, I don't feel confident in Aaron Rodgers' ability like, he used to be able to do, to actually go out there and win football games. And that's why they brought them in. Like, the Jets roster was pretty good on paper, but Dad, like, and I know I'm just kind of rambling about the Jets, but it's just like, I really got to get it off my chest. But like, people were just saying like, oh, well, all the Jets needed was like a quarterback. Dad, at this point last year, the Jets, when they had Zach Wilson, they were 4-4. Now with Aaron Rodgers, they're 2-6. Come on, man.
I was about to say they actually had won more games.
Yeah, they won more games with Zach Wilson and Robert Saleh still being the coach. So I'll go and get to your thoughts, because I'll keep rambling.
Well, now I was gonna say I passed it over to you because I knew you had to get some things off your chest. Hope you feel better. Hope your chest is lighter.
Yeah, I'm good now.
Again, I don't have much to add to that. I would just simply say, Father Time is undefeated. Yeah. Maybe he is old, and maybe at this point now, he's trying to pretend or put on that he's better than he actually is. Honestly, Garrett Wilson had a decent game yesterday, but you forget now that Devontae Adams is even on the squad. He was not getting any touches. And Aaron Rodgers, rather than him, owning up to it and taking some ownership, to your point, every week, it's more about what the team didn't do. The truth of the matter is, like you said about the defense, Robert Saleh is known for that. The Jets came into this season with a very good defense, and they were actually staying in games this year because of the defense.
Thank you.
The offense has been the problem. They haven't been giving them anything to work with. And at the end of the day, what we know about the NFL is when the quarterback is great, he typically gets a lot or most of the credit. In this instance, he's not been great. He should get as much, or if not more so, the blame.
Yep.
It is Aaron Rodgers' fault. He has his fingerprints all over it. He can be arrogant. He didn't work out in the offseason. Therefore, you're still now trying to build rapport with your wide receivers and your teammates when you could have done that in the offseason, but you thought, I'm good because I'm Aaron Rodgers. Mm-hmm. Well, at the end of the day, you're still human. Yeah. And, at what he will very quickly find out, if they don't start winning, you're dispensable, my brother.
Facts.
They eventually they will say, no, we can't keep doing this. So I think he really needs to reflect on that. And I think he really needs to start taking some ownership and accountability for the fact that he's been stinking the joint up.
He's approaching that territory too of like, because we all like people always like to talk about legacy, and it's like, bro, like people are only going to care about what have you done for me lately. Like, of course, people are always going to remember like Aaron Rodgers from a talent perspective is arguably one of the best quarterbacks of all time. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer. There's no disputing that. But bro, it's getting to the point where it's like your legacy for your last 2 or 3 seasons in the National Football League, they're going to be bad. Like, so I'm like, bro, you better figure it out quickly because, and that's the thing for the Jets. It's like, I don't think there's anything more they can give him. They've given him the whole franchise. The only thing that they haven't given him is the owner's wife at this point. It's like, bro, they give you everything. They've given you literally the entire franchise. So it's like, bro, it's on you to, bro, they brought you in because they thought you were the missing piece that could take them over the hump. They've gotten worse. That's on him.
Agreed. All right. Well, we beat that horse. He's good and dead, and
yeah,
definitely at the glue factory at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So last topic for the NFL this week is the Ravens versus the Browns, and I'm gonna kick this one off.
I was gonna let you ask you to kick it off.
Yeah, I'm gonna kick this one off because I've been saying for weeks that Jameis Winston should have been inserted. Truth of the matter is, I talked about if the Miami Dolphins were smart, they would have tried to go do whatever they needed to do to get Jameis Winston. At the end of the day, we know that Jameis Winston can be a little bit loose, and I'm being
pause on that too.
Okay, with the football, loose with the football. I'll add that prepositional phrase to make sure that there are no pause moments. Loose with the football, but we also know that he will sling the football.
Pause on that too.
Partial pause. He will sling that thing.
Pause, man.
He will sling the football down the field. And yesterday was a prime example of that. And let's just be honest. The dude he's probably like a shaman or something. He's like a spiritual leader.
Yeah.
When you think about how he, gets guys involved and how the team rallies around him, I thought it was quite impressive. I'm talking from the Browns' perspective. I'm going to let you talk about the Ravens because I know, once again, your chest is heavy. You got to get some stuff off. But with the Browns, you now have Jameis Winston. Guys are probably energized behind him. Nick Chubb just came back. Now, Nick Chubb didn't, do anything extra special yesterday, but he's now solidified. I'm the number one guy in the backfield. We can pass the ball. It allows them to now have some more play action that they weren't having before. Jameis Winston will throw the ball down the field. And bottom line is, if you're not a good cornerback, you're going to get burned because he's going to get the ball down the field. I've never questioned his arm strength. I've never questioned his ability to move around in the pocket. Most people would be surprised, but he's really not that athletic, but he's athletic enough to sidestep, getting sacked a few times, and then to get the ball down the field. So I thought it was impressive what they were able to do. Last thing that I'll say is nobody going into that game yesterday, I don't think, at least from the Ravens' perspective, expected the Browns to win. I'll be perfectly honest with you. I was not surprised because it was a rivalry game. And, just like when Carolina and Duke play, you can throw out whatever they're ranked. You can throw out the records. Rivalry games matter. When the Ravens play the Browns and when they play the Steelers, those are always going to be knockdown, drag-out fights. And so I thought it was impressive. I think Jameis should have been inserted at least 2 to 3 weeks ago. Well, probably 3 or 4 weeks ago. But it was impressive to see. And I'm going to pass it over to you because I know you got quite a bit to say about the Ravens.
Yeah, no, and first I'm going to say I wholeheartedly agree with what you're saying about Jameis Winston. Like, I actually want to give him more credit than I actually do, discredit the Ravens because he balled out yesterday. And like you said, you've been saying it for weeks, and I've been agreeing with you that Jameis Winston should have been their starting quarterback after week 2. Like, you've been saying that. You've stuck to that sentiment. But from the Ravens' perspective, this is the type of stuff we talk about with Harbaugh and just the Ravens, man. Like, you beat the teams that you shouldn't necessarily beat, or like that should be competitive games, and then you mess around and lose to the Browns that are 1-6 coming into this week. Like, that's unacceptable, man. And really, the blame is going to be put on. I'm going to put half of it on the coaching and half of it on the wide receiving core. Lamar Jackson was putting the ball where it needed to go. Like, and what's baffling to me is just like, how do you have a game where you have 5 touchdowns the game before throwing, and then your receivers just can't seem to catch the ball the next game? Like, Bateman, wide open passes, man, just continued to drop the ball yesterday. Zay Flowers is like, bro, y'all got to be able to create some separation. Like, y'all got to be able to give Lamar Jackson a target. Like, his go-to target shouldn't have to be Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely every single week in and week out. But then this is where I'm going to bring in John Harbaugh. You didn't establish a run yesterday. And we've said, like, the entire season for the Ravens to continue to be successful and ultimately win the Super Bowl, in February, they have to be able to establish a run. Every game they're able to establish a run, they win the football game, and usually, pretty convincingly at that. So I'm not just going to go off too bad on Ravens because, like you said, that's a game where me and you like to call it a trap game because that's a rivalry game. And then also nobody wants to go to Cleveland to play the Browns, like, no matter what their record is, because they have a really good defense. And you're going to have to account for Myles Garrett rushing at the quarterback every play. But that's also going to allude back to what I was talking about John Harbaugh. If you already know that going into the game, bro, establish a run. Like, by the second quarter, you shouldn't have Lamar Jackson dropping back in the pocket like he's Patrick Mahomes. He can do that, and like I said, he's shown he can do that. But why make your life harder when you don't have to? Establish a run, and then just let the passing and play action open up from that. So I'm just going to leave it at that with the Ravens, but I'm telling you, they better not make this a trend going forward because they're going to mess around and lose in the first round or second round in the playoffs this year if they don't establish a run and just waste another Lamar Jackson MVP type season. So those are my thoughts on the Ravens. Get it together.
Well, real quickly, yes, just to put a quick bow on that, I completely agree with everything you said. Establish the run at the beginning of the game. And listen, I know that Derrick Henry is older, and you probably want to, look at how many carries he actually gets. But, I mean, put in, what's his name? Justice
Hill. That brother can run the football.
Hill. Yes, I'm not saying split the carries, but I'm saying establish Derrick Henry at the beginning of the game. Let Justice Hill get some run at the in the middle of the game. And then at the very end, we all know Derrick Henry is going to finish. He's shown that several weeks now. At the end of games when they needed a score, or they needed to close the game out, this brother was picking up 50 and 60-yard runs because he was still fresh. So establish the run. You then have play action that you can get Lamar Jackson comfortable with, some of the short passes, open up the playbook a little bit, give Zay Flowers. And what it also shows is how much better he is than everybody else, because I don't hear anybody talking about the fact that he's got number one wide receivers and he's still not getting it done, a la Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
I mean, so bottom line is this is what Lamar Jackson's been doing throughout his whole career. Name me 1,000-yard receiver that he's had.
The tight end, Mark Andrews, not even a wide receiver.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Not even a wide receiver.
If they're smart, I'm going to cut you off real quick right here. Speaking of wide receivers, if they're smart, they'll go out there and get Deontay Johnson. Because they've rumored his name for the last month with the Carolina Panthers. And they keep saying, like I saw a report today from Adam Schefter, that they think he's going to be traded by the deadline. If I'm the Baltimore Ravens, because he's a young wide receiver that's explosive, and I do know one thing that brother can do, he can catch the football. So if they're smart, try to add Deontay Johnson, man. Just get somebody fresh and that actually can catch the football outside of the tight ends. Please do something.
Agreed.
Goodness. Well, moving on. I'm looking at our notes for the show here, and I'm just going to throw it in. OKC is also on a 3-0 start, Jay. Thank you for throwing that in there because that's not going to get touched on. But in NBA, Lakers did start 3-0. I know you're very passionate about that, so lead us into that.
I'm going to be honest, man. I almost shed a tear last week watching the Lakers play basketball. Just to put into perspective, that game, Zach, we were in Discord, bro, while we were playing the game. And I told you, bro, I was like, against that game against the Suns, I said, man, if the Lakers can get this to a single-digit game, or at least to 10 or 11 by halftime. I said, we're going to win this game. And the reason why I said that is because I have trust in J.J. Redick. Just like prime example of just the complete 360 that the Lakers have been able to have so far with J.J. Redick as the head coach. Last year, if we went down 22 points to the Phoenix Suns, I would have went ahead and took a shower and went to bed. This past week, when I saw we were down 22, I genuinely had faith that we could come back and win the game, and that's exactly what we did, and it's all because of J.J. Redick. Like, the brother's just a brilliant basketball mind, and everyone knew that coming into, him having the job, but he's already won the locker room, and it's been 3 games. Like, Darvin Ham never won the locker room, and he was the head coach for 2 seasons. J.J. Redick has done it in 3 games. And I'm not just about to sit up here and just pause on this, but dog Darvin Ham. But at the same token, it's like I have to give credit where credit is due. And you made the prediction last week down on the podcast that J.J. Redick can win Coach of the Year. Of course, the Lakers are going to lose some games, but if we keep this up, we could potentially finish as a top 5 seed in the Western Conference, which if we do that, the playoffs we already know is all about matchups and what coaching adjustments you can make in the small details. And I can already see that J.J. Redick lives, sleeps, and breathes the details and the small things that ultimately win you basketball games and potentially championships. So I'm over the moon right now with the Los Angeles Lakers. We play the Phoenix Suns tonight, so hopefully we can, go 4-0. But just the brand of basketball that we're playing, and I got to throw this in there, man. Anthony Davis, man. Lord have mercy. Like, salute. We've been saying this. Hey, y'all go hard on the boy. Salute. But I got to throw this out there for Anthony Davis. Like, I remember whenever Darvin Ham first became the coach, everybody's talked about, Anthony Davis should be the best player on this team. Like, we're going to run the offense through Anthony Davis. J.J. Redick actually put his money where his mouth is and is actually, making Anthony Davis the focal point of the offense. Like, even our first game against the Minnesota Timberwolves, LeBron had 18 points. If LeBron had 18 points when Darvin Ham was the coach, we would lose by 20. Anthony Davis has just been balling. And like you said last week, Dad, your predictions really might be right. You should have honestly had some parlays coming into the season because you said Anthony Davis could potentially win Defensive Player of the Year. And the way J.J. Redick is using him at the 5, he potentially has that ability to do so. So I'm just loving what I'm seeing from the complete Laker roster. Like, Dalton Connect, that brother's been a spark off the bench. Austin Reeves is finally finding his confidence again. Rui Hachimura is playing, like he did for Japan in the Olympics. Like, I'm just really loving what I'm seeing, man. I feel like I'm on cloud 9 right now with the Los Angeles Lakers. So I'll go and pass it over to you because I'm doing a lot of glazing right now. But yeah, like the Lakers are hooping.
Yes. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, it is.
The truth of the matter is, I'm not going to use the word skeptical, but when we got down the other night by 22, I was like, oh man, here we go. And then, but I had recorded the game and I had gone back and started watching it. When we went down 22, I was like, okay, if we don't cut this to 11 or 12 by halftime, I'm shutting it down. Well, we actually cut it. I think it was 11 just before halftime. And so I was like, okay, let's see what happens. And so I fast forwarded through the commercials. Next thing I knew, we had a 1-point lead. And I'm looking at this like, wait a minute. Do we actually have someone who is calling? And I was looking at the offense. I was like, he actually called a play. They executed the play. We scored off of it. And I was like, wow, my voice showing up 3 octaves because I'm in a happy place. Like, best case scenario last year at this time. And, shout out to Darvin Ham, because I will say this, from a defensive perspective, our team was okay. But what I see J.J. Redick doing is, it's minor and small adjustments. They're subtle adjustments. But he actually is putting people in the proper place. And I'll just mention this because I saw it on Twitter today. I think it was Twitter or X or whatever it's called now. They showed a stat where Giannis played 33 minutes and Taurean Prince played 33 minutes. And I'm thinking, if Darvin Ham was still on this squad, Cam Reddish would have played 33 minutes the other night.
Fact.
He just would have. That's what would have happened. So, best case scenario, we probably would have been 1-2. But I'm a mindset that we would have honestly been 0-3. I'm just keeping it real. So I'm seeing some positive things. Now, with that said, Rob Pelinka, do your job and make sure that we now get another piece or two to complement the good coaching that JJ Redick has started.
Walker Kessler?
Thank you. I saw that. If we go get Walker, I am of the opinion that Walker Kessler and still another shooter. Well, I know it's not going to be Buddy Hield. I've been wanting him for at least the past 3 years. We talked about that for the past 3 years. No, it's not going to be him. But go get another shooter. I like Dalton Connect, but our bench still needs to give us more. I like what Jackson Hayes is bringing. I do.
Thanks.
And there are folks who, and I'm just going to say this too, because I know that Laker Nation really doesn't necessarily feel D'Lo, but what D'Lo hasn't done is cost us games. He hasn't turned the ball over. He runs the offense. If his shot wasn't falling, he's actually still doing some other things. He's making sure the offense is running effectively. So I know there are lots of folks that are like, package him and get him up out of here because he's the weak link, blah, blah, blah. I get all that, but not hurting us.
No.
I appreciate what Gabe Vincent did because, man,
he's been hooping too.
Listen, he's been balling, but I was real hot with that brother.
There was an APB out for him last year.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. He was on milk cartons and everything else. I was like, where is this cat? Like, what are you doing? And so him, and I know we got, Vando coming back.
One of them got him right, which is wild.
Yeah. So, bottom line is I see some positive things. I'm optimistic, but I'm also, I'm being cautiously optimistic because I also know that we can start this way and then some guys can get hurt. Health plays a major role in this. Thanks. And the fact that Rob Pelinka just literally sits on his hands, that for me is a problem. But I like what I'm seeing. I like the way that JJ Redick is running the offense, and I also like the fact that even when dudes mess up, I saw him take D'Lo out of the game, but he was over there talking to D'Lo about what he needed for him to do when he went back in, and he didn't just shut him down and not play him anymore. Max Christie is going to be, listen, the shot I know eventually will come. He'll get his confidence, but this dude has the ability I've been watching to be an elite defender.
Facts.
And I mean elite. The stuff that he was doing, he was giving Anthony Edwards fits the other night. And it was fun to watch because he's got really long arms. And I mean, he moves his feet quite well. So I like what I'm seeing. I'll be cautiously optimistic, but it's going to be actually fun to watch the Lakers this year.
Facts.
But I'm still holding out hope that Rob Pelinka will do something. And if he doesn't, then by December, if he's not gone, it's going to be a problem. So, Jameson, did you want to talk a little bit more about, let me just say this. It's very early. We're only 3 games into this.
Yeah.
I get it. But if I were going to talk about who might be the leading candidate for MVP, again, 3 games. Hard to argue with the fact that AD has scored 30 plus points in 3 straight games. The first 2 scored 30 plus points in back-to-back games since Kobe, but the only other person to do 35 plus points, and I forget the other stat, but it was 35 plus points in back-to-back games. He's in some pretty...
It's the 10 rebounds.
That's what it was. 35 points and 10 rebounds. It was Jerry West and what's his face? Oscar Robertson.
Yeah.
Those were the only ones. So right now, AD is probably my MVP candidate. Again, very, very early. And then, I hate to say it,
Jason Tatum.
Yeah, man.
The thing I will say about Tatum though is,
well, we said it was going to happen. We did.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You said he honestly needed to. Like we talked about this. Anytime a player, especially given his circumstances coming off the Olympic break, we knew he was going to go crazy during the NBA regular season. The only reason I don't see him winning MVP is because of the brand of basketball they play. They play such a team-oriented game where it's like like Derek White can be their leading scorer and they'll still win by 20 plus. Like they're that good of a team, and I just don't see him putting up 30 plus points every game. the way the Celtics play basketball. Like, they don't necessarily need Tatum to do that in order to win. I'm not saying AD needs to average 40 and 12 for us to continue to win, but I am kind of saying that, like, AD does need to continue to put up 30 and 12 and 30 and 10 for us to be able to compete with the teams like the Celtics and the Thunder and teams of that caliber. So that's why I'm more adept to give that award to right now and long term to Anthony Davis. Like you said, of course, barring injury. But then, like, another name I'm going to throw out there is, like, even LaMelo Ball, what he's been doing so far. And part of the reason why he probably won't be able to win MVP, he'll still be on the ladder, is because the Hornets aren't going to have the record that, like, the Lakers or, like, the Celtics, or I was going to also throw Shea in there, too. I mean, I know that was my prediction, but they're just not going to have the same record, and they're not going to be on televised like that either. Like, LaMelo Ball had 30, 40 of the night, or even, like, someone like my favorite player, Trae Young. Trae Young had 38 points, and nobody was really talking about it because it's the Hawks, unfortunately. So there's a lot of So there's a lot of guys that have been playing really good basketball, but AD and Jason Tatum and, like, Shea and some of these guys are just going to continue to stick out more. I mean, like even another name, Cade Cunningham. I really feel bad for that brother because he's putting up insane numbers. No one's talking about it, and their team continues to lose because he has no help around him. So this can honestly genuinely be a season 2 where, like, we see somebody even break the scoring record again for how many points they average in a season, because dudes just been waking up, not even brushing their hair and getting 35 plus so far this season every game, it seems like. So we're going to continue to see what happens.
Real quick, I want to talk about one other topic. And the only reason I'm talking about this topic is, okay, full disclosure, I'm a little bit perturbed because he was my number 1 pick in my fantasy basketball draft. Yes, I'm saying it. Joel Embiid, come on, brother. Come on, man. Yeah. Get it together, brother. I don't listen. I'm not one of those who talks about, oh, well, he's getting paid this amount of money, he's getting paid that amount of money. I don't count a brother's pockets. I'm not in his pockets. I'm not trying to count his money. What I am saying is, you know, and I know the wear and tear that 82 games takes on people. My wife and I had a conversation, James, and, you know, this mom and I had a conversation one day, and she was like, they get paid a lot of money. And I said, they play 82 games. I said, babe, just to give you an example, like, one team may be in Charlotte one night, and then they have a game in, you know, New York, because they're on the East Coast. But then 3 nights later, they literally could fly across the country to the West Coast to play 2 back-to-back games. And I'm like, the average person can't do that. Yeah. These are athletes. Their bodies are different. They have to be held to a different. They're held to a different standard. That's just the reality.
For people that don't realize it, just go watch Starting 5 on Netflix. Like,
that's a good point.
Like, if they don't realize, like, the toil that an NBA season can take on these players and how much they do, like, just go watch Starting 5. And that probably doesn't even show that shows a decent bit, but that's not even everything they have to deal with. But my fault. Go ahead.
No. You're right. You're absolutely right. And so I'm basically trying to, you know, preface everything with, I get all that, but, you know, come on, man, you played in the Olympics, and now you've already talked about not playing back-to-back games. How can the Philadelphia 76ers position themselves when you're the best player on the court? You're one of the probably the top 5 to 7 players in the league, but it's going to be hard to judge that if you're not even playing. Yep. You're not playing back-to-backs. I know part of the reason that, you know, Jameson and I have some of these conversations is because we talk about old school versus new school. And now I'm going to sound like, you know, one of those get off my lawn dudes. But bottom line is, cats back in the day played 82 games. They just did. Or they played as many as they could. These cats these days literally just say, I don't even think I'm going to play back-to-back. I mean, come on, brother. What about the folks who paid money to see you play?
Exactly.
Who saved to come see you play? Kobe didn't do that. Kobe said, I know that people save money to come see me play, and I want to give them a show. I want to make sure that their money was worth it. Michael Jordan said the same thing.
Dad, LeBron's in year 22, and when they interviewed him, it was a couple days ago, and they asked him about playing back-to-back. He was like, he said, my goal is to play in every single game. That brother's about to be 40 years old. Come on, man.
Exactly.
There's no
Come on, man.
excuse. And like you said, I'm glad you brought it up. Like, it'd be different if Joel Embiid just rehabbed the entire offseason and he's not ready to go. I almost said something else, but my brother, you literally just represented the country, dog. You played in the Olympics. Like, you weren't on no minutes restriction. You gave your heart and soul to that Olympic team. So it's like, bro, like, you got to be able to do the same for your actual job, my guy. Like just to bring another name into this, Kawhi Leonard. You saw what the Clippers did with that. Like, they sent him over there to potentially be a part of Team USA. They saw he wasn't right. And my thing is, too, is just, like, even from the Clippers, like the 76ers don't enable this stuff, bruh. Like,
yes.
if it were me and I'm the GM, I'm gonna be like, bruh, unless you can guarantee that you're gonna play in the NBA regular season, you're not representing your country. I'm sorry, bruh. Like, it is what it is. It's like, you gotta prioritize your actual job first. And I get it. The Olympics only come up 4 years, but I'm like, bruh, like you said, people are paying good money to come out there and see you play basketball. And it's like, bro, you owe it to your teammates too. Like, Paul George just came there. Like, Tyrese Maxey just re-signed with the franchise. Like, you have a couple new teammates that you got added to the roster, like Andre Drummond and Kelly Oubre. Some of these guys, it's like, bro, you owe it to your teammates too to be out there playing. Like we said last week in the predictions, the way some of these teams have come out the gate balling and stuff like that, you can't afford to just keep losing regular season games. Like, by the time you get to January, bro, some of these crucial games that you missed, they're going to come back to bite you. Like, the Sixers going to mess around and be like a 7 seed and lose in the first round just based off of matchups. Because I'm telling you right now, they don't want to play like the Celtics or the Bucks or like teams like that in the first round of the playoffs. But they're going to mess around and have to do so if they end up with like a 6 or 7 seed. So, Joel Embiid and the 76ers, bro, get it together, man. It's a city of brotherly love, but we gotta be out here playing, man. Like, get it together.
He's gonna find out how much brotherly love there is if he doesn't stop playing. Period. So, all right, I'm gonna leave that alone.
I was gonna say, y'all, Jay, you know that a little too well with starting off slow and then having to pick back up. But anyways, moving the needle. Go ahead and tell us what moved the needle for you this week, Jay.
It's two things. First was gonna be Jameis Winston. That's like you were alluding to earlier. That's got to give a huge shout out to Jameis Winston. 300 plus passing yards in your first start since 2022. Just phenomenal. Arguably, you beat the best team right now in the NFL outside of like probably the Chiefs and the Lions. But the fact you're able to do that in your first game back and just like you said, rally the troops. And I'm gonna be honest. Based on that performance yesterday, the Cleveland Browns have the potential to do something special. I think they can win the next 3 or 4 games in a row and potentially make it interesting, within their actual division. So that's my first person that moved the needle. And then second has to be Freddie Freeman. What he's been able to do so far in the World Series, especially in Game 1, the fact that you were in the bottom of the 10th, bro, in your first game in the World Series, dog, Game 1, and you hit a walk-off grand slam, my brother, like, holy aura. Like, that brother's special. But those are the two that moved the needle for me this week. So, yeah.
So what moved the needle for me this week? I'm going to actually go back to the NFL or the Detroit Lions. My God. Like, did the Detroit Lions forget they were a football team? Because they're putting up basketball numbers. Like, this is foolishness. Like, it's almost like Dan Campbell is looking at the opposition and saying, let me see how many points I can put up against you and how many ways I can humiliate your team this week. I mean, what was it? A few weeks ago, they had like a defensive lineman catching passes.
It was the offensive lineman catching back shoulder fades.
Right. Offensive lineman. I mean, yesterday, the stuff that they were doing, I mean, the kick return, punt return, Jared Goff looks like the second coming of Dan Marino. I mean, just like they are a well-oiled machine. They have fun. You can tell that the chemistry is there. I am impressed. I will be the first to say it. When Dan Campbell came, I was like, oh, is he a rah kind of coach? You hear people say, yeah, he's a player's coach and all that. But my mentality was, and at the end of the day, boy, they've got X's, O's, zeros, 2s, 3s, and 4s. And those are all the numbers that they're putting up. Like 124 points, it felt like they put up yesterday.
Yeah.
So That's what definitely moved the needle for me. The Detroit Lions. If nobody's paying attention, you might want to start paying attention. They are a team to be reckoned with.
Yeah, I benched Laporta, so this is a tough subject for me.
I lost.
Yeah, but wrapping it up for the episode, the predictions. We got Monday Night Football tonight, so Giants Steelers. Who do y'all got?
First off, the NFL should be ashamed of themselves that they keep putting these piss poor Monday Night Football matchups for fans. It's like, bruh, you got the World Series going on right now and basketball is back, and what do you throw out there to compete with those? The Giants and the Steelers. With all that being said, though, I'm going to pick the Pittsburgh Steelers to win that game, probably to no one's surprise.
I don't even need to take up that much time. Steelers. Next.
I love it. Okay, NBA, Milwaukee versus Boston.
That's tough. You know what? I'm going to do something. I'm going to take Milwaukee tonight. And I don't feel confident in doing so. I just think Giannis has a monster game, and I think this is the type of win that the Bucks can get early on in the season that can just kind of prove to them that, yeah, we can compete with Boston come playoff time. So I'm going to take Milwaukee.
Nope. Taking Boston. Torian Prince is getting 33 minutes a game. Nope. They're not beating the Boston Celtics. Sorry. You've got Darvin Ham as an assistant, head assistant?
Yeah, he's a head assistant.
And he's making sure that Torian Prince is playing 33 minutes? No, sir. Celtics. Next.
Back to that tweet. I saw that tweet with some choice words.
Yeah,
Got a quote.
33 minutes? What?
They got a special connection.
Bro,
anyways, Lakers, Phoenix. Move on.
You already know who we're taking. Lakers.
Yep, I'll make that one short as well. It's the Lakers. But I won't be surprised if Phoenix wins because they're literally playing each other. I mean, I think they played each other 2 nights ago or 3 nights ago.
Yeah.
So I won't be surprised if Phoenix actually gets the win. But then again, I'm not sure that Bradley Beal is playing. Again, I'm taking it personally because he's on my fantasy basketball team and he's hurt. Already hurt, man. So I want the Lakers to win. You know what? Yeah, I'm taking the Lakers.
Okay. Well, that didn't surprise me at all. So let's get into the final one. World Series, Dodgers, Yankees.
I'm gonna and I really want to take the Dodgers, but the only reason why I'm picking the Yankees is because they need to win tonight. If they don't win tonight, this series is over, and I think they get swept. I think Aaron Judge actually has a bounce back game because Lord knows he ain't been hitting nothing. So I think Aaron Judge has a phenomenal game tonight. I think Juan Soto continues to ball out like he's been doing. I think their pitching is a little bit better tonight, especially later on in that game. And I think the Yankees end up actually winning tonight. They need to, so that's my pick.
Yeah, I'm doing one of those if picks. If they don't win tonight, it's a wrap. So I'm going to go with the Yankees, although I'm not very confident. And I mean, listen, they've had a good season. So I'm going to go with them. But if, to your point, Jameson, Aaron Judge needs to actually hit something.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, dude, hit the base. Like, tap your bat on the base or something. My God, because that is important. So I think, to your point, the pitching will have to improve. I think it will get better. I think it's going to be a close game. I do believe, though, that they will pull it out. And I think they have to. I don't think it's going to be a sweep. So I've got the Yankees. So I think that's going to do it for this episode. Want to thank everybody for tuning in yet again. We'll have some really hot topics coming to you coming next week. So thanks again for everybody joining in, listening in, and we'll see you same time next week. Take care.